good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to speak to you today at this both exciting and important conference. Thanks for the invitation. I would very much have liked to give a talk together with my colleague, Beate Lex, as advertised in the program. But unfortunately, she had other commitments at short notice. She very much regrets not being able to be here and asked me to pass on her apologies. As you can see from the slide behind me, I work at the MFG Baden-Württemberg. The MFG is not a museum or a cultural institution. Instead, it is a funding body of the state of Baden-Württemberg. For those of you who are, like me, not from Germany, Baden-Württemberg is the name of the state where Karlsruhe is situated. If you're now wondering why the MFG as a regional funding body has been invited for this conference, I hope this will become clear later on. But to explain briefly, my team and we support museums based in the state of Baden-Württemberg in their digital practices, on behalf of the Baden-Württemberg Ministry for Science, Research and the Arts. I will discuss how we do this and what we have learned so far as we go on. To start with, I will provide you with some brief insight into the task of the MFG and outline the activities undertaken by the Digital Culture team. Then I will describe the projects and programs implemented to date and share some of what we have learned with you. The MFG Medien- und Filmgesellschaft Baden-Württemberg is a funding body which is partly owned by the state of Baden-Württemberg and by the Südwestrundfunk, a public service broadcaster in the southwest of Germany. Based in Stuttgart, the MFG encompasses two areas of business. We promote film culture and the film industry through MFG film funding, and we act as a partner to people working in the cultural and creative sectors in Baden-Württemberg through MFG Creative. MFG supports them by providing custom-made programs and projects as part of its MFG Creative sector, which also includes my department. Here, we have been acting as an expert partner in the digital culture field to museums in Baden-Württemberg for about 4 years now. This field of expertise is overseen by the Digital Culture team. This team consists of, and a few of you already know these colleagues, team manager Beate Lex and project managers Heike Kramer and Corinna Langenbacher. So at present, the Digital Culture team comprises 3 colleagues who work with me in close collaboration at a conceptual level. I recently became part of the MFG, and together with my team, I support museums based in the state in their digital practices on behalf of the ministry. In our work, we see ourselves as service providers to the museums and give the museums service-oriented support tailored to their requirements on behalf of the ministry. This has taken place since 2014 in the form of programs and projects and involves collaboration with a range of experts. Our target customers are the national museums as well as the numerous non-national museums in the state. We aim to support the museums with their efforts in pursuing digitization. So now I come to the specific programs and projects of the Digital Culture Division. My colleague Beate Lex, who, as I said at the start, was unfortunately unable to attend today at the last minute, contributed to the development of each of these programs and projects. If anyone has any more in-depth questions about this, I will certainly do my best to answer them. The first project completed by the MFG in collaboration with the museums of Baden-Württemberg was Open Culture BW and took place between December 2013 and April 2015. The aim was to show cultural institutions ways in which they can make their data or digitized artifacts openly accessible and create mediation formats out of them. The project also sought to promote the use of this data within the information and communication technology sector. It took place over 1.5 years and included a comprehensive workshop and webinar series as well as a 3-day hackathon. The next project was entitled Open Up Museum and was implemented between December 2014 and May 2016. The project consisted of a further training series on digital museum practice aimed at the national museums. It culminated in guidelines which provide practical knowledge in a highly concentrated form. Some of you probably already are familiar with them. When they were published, they were widely adopted and praised throughout the German-speaking area. The project was launched following a detailed assessment of needs. Corinna Langenbacher, who is part of the digital culture team, spent 3 months traveling across Baden-Württemberg and asking museums about their further training requirements. Additional projects then emerged off the back of this comprehensive assessment of needs and project findings. These include Stuttgart Retold, in German Stuttgart neu erzählt, as a joint project between the Stuttgart City Museum and the MFG. The project focuses on how museums can use new media to actively include the public in devising the content of exhibitions. The Stuttgart Retold portal invites visitors to share their stories, supported by video tutorials. Contributors have complete freedom when it comes to the media format. So this includes photo memories with comments, an audio podcast, or cross-media posts. Many of the contributions will be featured in a permanent exhibition, which will be open to visitors from April 2018 in the newly opened City Museum. In 2017, the Open Culture BW initiative was continued, having been launched in 2014-15. It was created based on feedback acquired by my colleagues from the museums. The increased use of serious games as a means of mediation is interesting for museums, they told us, because serious games have become a key knowledge transfer tool. The project brought 13 cultural institutions in Baden-Württemberg together with teams of developers consisting of students from 11 different universities and higher education institutes. The aim? To develop serious games based on ideas from the cultural institutes. Data available in the public domain formed the basis for this. So images, videos, audio files, metadata, and geodata. And this data was provided to the teams of developers by the cultural institutions. One project which is underway at present is called Strategic Use of Videos in Museums, so strategischer Einsatz von Videos in Museen. The aim of this project is to help the participating museums integrate video as a media format into their overall strategy in the long term and to develop their own video productions. For some of them, perhaps for the first time. 7 national and 10 non-national museums from Baden-Württemberg are taking part in this project, the first stage of which involves a further training series run by various experts. As part of the second stage, participants devise individual strategies for video integration in collaboration with their respective museums. The aim is to integrate video into an overall strategy of the museum in question in a way which proves useful. The last stage involves 5 museums being chosen and provided with video production support. The coaching program Museums 2.0, or Museen 2.0 in German, first began in 2016. program focuses on the digital and social transformation of museums. A panel of experts has selected a total of 6 museums, which so far have been working on a roadmap of the digital strategy in 2 rounds. The museums spent 9 months devising roadmaps for developing their own digital strategy based on their experiences during a pilot project. The program combines group coaching and individual coaching elements with webinars held by various experts and tailored to the requirements of the individual museums. This means that the program should structure and support the pathway towards digital and social transformation on an individual and needs-oriented basis. Depending on how far along the development process the museums have already come and what their prerequisites might be. The following 3 museums took part in the first round: the Württemberg State Museum, Landesmuseum Württemberg, the Stuttgart State Museum of Natural History, so Staatliches Naturkundemuseum Stuttgart, and the German Clock Museum in Furtwangen, Deutsches Uhrenmuseum Furtwangen. In November 2017, the results from the first round were published, and the pilot projects were as different as the 3 museums themselves. Based on the motto of Museums Bring Evolution, Museum macht Evolution, the Stuttgart State Museum of Natural History developed various analog and digital formats to enable both employees and visitors alike to be involved in the design of a permanent exhibition. The Württemberg State Museum, on the other hand, concentrated on further developing its digital strategy, and several projects are now based on this strategy, including, for example, a virtual trip in time back to the Middle Ages. The German Clock Museum in Furtwangen set up a blog as a key communication tool and core element of its digital strategy. The current round of the Museums 2.0 project can benefit from previous findings. It kicked off in October 2017 with the following museums: the Stuttgart State Gallery, so Staatsgalerie Stuttgart, the Baden State Museum, Badisches Landesmuseum, and the Freiburg Museums, Städtische Museen Freiburg. These 3 museums will then report back on their experiences in summer 2018. Well, as discussed, the MFG has been working on behalf of the Baden-Württemberg Ministry for Science, Research and the Arts for several years now to support museums with their digital transformation. As you know, digital transformation affects all areas of a museum, from the inventory catalogs and long-term data storage to the digital personnel records and cash register systems. Yet at the forefront of the programs and projects offered by the MFG are those which focus on the relationship between the museum and its visitors. So far, the Digital Culture team have collaborated most intensively with the museums as part of the Museums 2.0 coaching program. Petra Neverly and Heike Kramer, who set up the program and continue to run it, have learned a great deal from this collaboration. I asked him to share the most important things we have learned about the status quo, and I would like to present them to you now. For us, the most important element in digital transformation is the openness factor, which we have already heard several times today. So openness towards visitors, openness within the museum, openness as regards new forms of working, openness to sharing experiences and to external experience, and openness from the directors. We've learned that focusing on visitors and users is essential to the development of functioning digital office in the long run. It is important to adopt an open attitude towards visitors, to take them seriously and to get to know them properly through strategies such as persona, empathy maps, and visitor journeys. It has been demonstrated that these methods need to be repeatedly applied and integrated into everyday working life so as to validate methodically devised visitor profiles. It would also be useful to evaluate these methods regularly using surveys. Dialogue-based and participatory formats, along with activities focusing on visitor habits, can also be used to create communities, which can then be permanently linked to the museums. This may subsequently lead to the development of an open feedback culture so that the activities of the museums can be constantly readjusted. An openness towards new cross-departmental and collaborative forms of cooperation enables museums to react with greater speed and flexibility to changes and to have an influential impact on change. It therefore becomes easier to develop new formats and structures which are focused on the needs of users and present-day trends. Interdisciplinary digital teams were established as part of the Museum's 2.0 coaching program. And these consisted of employees from various departments of a museum so as to develop and learn from the relevant pilot projects. The strategic approaches of the individual museums were then devised on this basis. During the process, the digital teams tried out new methods and used targeted digital tools. By applying their extensive media expertise and familiarity with the issues of digital transformation, the team can then also manage, moderate, and disseminate further strategy development processes after the coaching. A digital team, yet, can only devise a sustainable strategy framework and win over further employees if the work of the digital team receives continued support after the coaching program. This means, in the best case scenario, the new task will not simply be added to the usual workload, and instead scope and support will be generated. One thing we have learned is that an open and proactive approach to area is crucial to the development of digital office. This means being prepared to quickly implement and try out processes and tools, testing the functionality, purpose, and added value of Office for future users, and drawing on experience to aid the future development of processes and products. The development of digital Office is at its most sustainable when based on an iterative process. This means when scenarios are played out, tested, and improved over and over again. So basically, trial and error. However, a culture of error can also mean bringing a halt to any failed digital offerings, of course. As part of the museum's 2.0 program, for example, the German Clock Museum in Furtwangen developed and implemented a block which was then abandoned after a few weeks because its focus was too narrow. A short time later, the museum came up with a new idea, and now it is working well. Our findings show that it is important to remain open to solutions from other museums too. It is beneficial to report back on one's own experiences, as well as to exchange ideas and network so as to learn and benefit from the experiences of others in the best case scenario. Collaborative networks with experts from other areas are essential when it comes to unknown terrain. IT experts, designers, game specialists, and other players from the creative industries are key partners in terms of taking expertise lacking within the museums and integrating this into the process of developing new formats. Legal experts, in particular, may be significant in the development of many digital offers. We are also on the opinion that, in an advisory role, change managers and other organizational developers and experts are essential partners in the application of creative methods so as to support and drive forward internal change processes. Digital transformation is a management issue. In order to ensure understanding of all these points, share them more widely and create a sense of commitment, it is necessary to engage in ongoing communication about the digital project, integrate other employees relevant to the project, and constantly develop the strategy both internally and externally. Based on what we have learned, an organization wishing to learn also needs ongoing dialogue and feedback. This should be provided to the museum primarily by the management and then be implemented by the employees. Wow, these are the most important things the digital culture team has learned from the museum's 2.0 coaching program. Thank you for listening.